Good afternoon, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started with some introductions from some amazing entrepreneurs and business owners. Once everybody does their introduction, we'll change it to gallery view so that you'll be able to see our amazing panel of business owners today. So we're going to start from my right to left on this screen, just because it's easier that way. We will start with Kari. Would you like to go first?
Absolutely. Hi. My name is Kari Stolworth, and I'm an entrepreneur. Been an entrepreneur for over 15 years. One of the things that I find challenging about being an entrepreneur is you can easily lose your way if you haven't understood the tools that will shape your path. So one of the things that I would definitely like to impart upon any entrepreneur that's trying to get something done, especially if you have a project, if you're project focused, if you're just trying to figure out what you want to do with the next step of your career or the next step of your life. Hey, I want to quit my job. I want to do something else. That's a little early stage. Right now where I am, I've created several products. And I know for sure that there are multiple tools that will help you as an entrepreneur really craft and hone your focus on those products. So I use something called Live Plan to write all my business plans. I use business modeling software to make sure that my financials are tied in with my products. I use product production software to make sure that I'm on schedule with things that I'm trying to do. I'm still learning the process. There's a lot that I need to understand about being a business owner. I make lemonade. Didn't think I would be making lemonade. I have a degree in cinematography and an undergrad in engineering. I moved out to Hollywood to work on a couple of different films. That led me into working at craft services and selling products back to the craft service industry at Sony and Warner Brothers, because I just saw how much I was eating at the table. So why not make something so that I can make money too? That's turned into a lemonade business that we are now in concession sales and stadium sales and concerts and event sales. We're at Sacramento State, Levi Stadium, the Golden One Center with the Sacramento Kings, and we're trying to expand into high schools and other college formats like that.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that information. Can't wait to hear more. Next, I have Tahira. Please share about yourself and your business.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tahira J. Talib-Dean, and I'm the founder and CEO of Hearts Connecting LLC, which is a virtual Islamic funeral and janaza memorial services. We facilitate virtual funerals for family and friends who aren't able to attend their loved one funeral in person. We serve the Muslim population and we serve the faith-based population. And we also serve the California Correction Department of Rehabilitation. In addition, I also founded a Muslim Widow and Women of Faith Grief Recovery Workshop. We are the first in the nation and abroad that have started a grief recovery workshop for women of faith who have lost their husbands. And this business was started from my own personal experience of losing my husband on July 30th of 2020 during the height of the pandemic. And I look forward to sharing with you more about my experience and offering any advice to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tahiri. So next, we have it listed here as Our Daughter's Destiny, but I know that is not your name. So yes. Please let us know your name and tell us more about your organization.
Hi, my name is Shirelle Howes. I am the founder and CEO of Our Daughter's Destiny, which is a reentry service here in Sacramento. So what we do is we help the formerly incarcerated to get out and find resources in the community to help them become more stable in the society. We also work on helping them find a career stability. So we focus more on the career and stability and financial aspects of the person versus just trying to find them a 9-to-5, something to get by. We really dive deep into our clients and making sure that not only are they okay with society, but society is okay with them being reintroduced. So that's our main focus. So we've been in business for about 5 years and we are a 501c3, so we are a nonprofit. And yeah, I'll share more with you guys in a second.
Thank you so much, Shirelle. We do know that resources reduce recidivism, so thank you for that.
Yes.
Next, we have Stephen.
My name is Stephen. I'm the CEO of Hopewell CPR Training and also Trauma Life Care Medical Transports. Hopewell CPR Training started in 2015. And what we do is we offer training to healthcare providers in the hospitals, physicians, everyone pretty much in the hospital would need to know how to resuscitate someone who goes into cardiac arrest. We do that training for them. We also provide training for childcare providers. If someone needed to get licensed as a childcare provider in the state of California, they need certain training before they can get licensed. We provide both trainings for them, and also to the general public for workplaces. We provide the OSHA CPR training and everything they need to stay compliant. In 2019, before the pandemic, we were able to purchase a new company for medical transport. It's an ambulance company that provides non-emergency transportation for older folks or anyone that actually needs any kind of medical transport, from the hospital to rehab facilities to doctor's appointments and everything in between. Since 2019, we've actually grown from having a loss of about $500,000 to covering the whole losses in 1 year. So that we're excited to keep growing. Of course, we have certain challenges as we go on. I'll continue to share with you some of the things that we ought to do to get better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. We appreciate that information. Next, Lisa.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Montez. I am the president and founder of All Events Management Group, an event management company that does everything from birthdays to weddings to milestones to very large festivals, music events, corporate events. Our niche for us is that it's just a passion of love. We like to really focus on our impact when we do an event. It's, we call it the happy business. And we like to know that we're leaving that event in a sense that it has an impact on our community or a service organization, whether it's schools or nonprofit groups. We know the struggle. We've been there. I've been there. I've been doing events for over 30 years and took a leap one day. Walked away from a corporate event company, and they were doing it for the bottom line was the dollar, and I needed it to do something more than that. It needed to have passion and fill my cup. So in 2014, I took a jump, and here I am, still having a little fun. We've all had to pivot a little bit with COVID and change some things, but we're still here. We're looking forward to growing, and we're excited to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa, for sharing that information. Next, Talitha.
Hello, my name is Talitha Floyd, and I am an entrepreneur, more so an entrepreneur whisperer, because I have not delved into my own business because I spend quality time empowering other entrepreneurs to start their business. I do have a master's degree in business administration, and I probably have over 30 years of work experience in just about every field under the sun, from nonprofit to profit. I specialize in the intercept between language of trying to learn how to get a business started, the financial pathways of how to get funding, the importance of credit, and the counseling that it takes to empower yourself to be able to live your dream.
Thank you so much, Talitha. I think actually that's entrepreneurship in its purest form, really reaching up and helping others throughout their journey. So thank you for that information. And last but certainly not least, our panelist, Brianna.
Hi, I am one of the founders of Cutting Edge Modular. We are a prefabricated housing factory in Woodland. We also own a construction company that goes with that. Our focus is on fire rebuilds in Northern California. We started in 2018. We had a presence in Southern California out of a dealership, dealing prefabricated housing. And we were just not able to serve any California or Northern California clientele. We just couldn't be there in person to see their job sites and work with them on their houses. Yeah. So if anyone has any construction questions, we can talk about it.
Lots of them, especially with the laws in the state of California changing, you know, the zoning laws and things like that. I think that'll be quite interesting. Thank you, Brianna. So as you can all see, we have a wealth of knowledge in so many different industries that we'll be able to speak from today. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start our Q&A session. So for our participants, just I'm going to change this to gallery view. If you could just raise your hand if you'd like to answer these questions first. So the first question that I'd like to ask, and this is always a question that the clients that I have the opportunity to work with, I always want to know as well. What was it that inspired you to become an entrepreneur or business owner? Okay.
That's easy. I have a degree in cinematography. So when I'm from Chicago, when I graduated, moved out to Hollywood to work in the film industry, I had no idea of the rate of turnover in the film industry. They don't tell you that. And I had a degree that I just paid $123,000 for, I think. And as soon as I got out here, out to California, I saw some of the people that were in my class before me that were great filmmakers, you know, working in restaurants. And, you know, I came out and I'm like, wait, what's going on? And they're like, dude, this is a lot harder than they said. So from that moment there, I knew I did not want to be a career waiter and a part-time filmmaker. And in order to make it in Hollywood, I knew I was going to have to build my own companies and follow my own destiny and my own path. So that kind of gave me the early nerves to go ahead and decide, you know, really early on, I'm not going to be a follower. I'm going to try to make my own money and craft my own destiny. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Would anyone else like to tackle that question? Brianna? Oh, we'll do Brianna and then Tahira.
Sure. So I was working in risk management and finance in New York. And when you do that, you're helping really wealthy people protect their wealth. And for me, I did about 6 years of that. And ultimately, with home building, you build a tangible product, and there's a person at the other end who is happy to have their forever home. And so for me, I was looking for a complete career shift. And it's just so much more rewarding to bring someone who lost their house in a fire a new home, as opposed to protecting millions and millions of dollars on Wall Street.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tahira.
Yes, for myself, I was attracted to the idea of financial freedom and being able to create my own life, my own design, not having to check in with the boss or ask a vacation or sick day. Also being able to have no ceiling on the financial earnings that I can generate, which will allow for me to leave something for my family, and most importantly, to contribute to my community so that we can have solutions and businesses for those in my community, so we can really uplift those in the community. So that's those are a few reasons why I know in entrepreneurship and being a business owner is my birthright.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that information. we do know that oftentimes it's the financial freedom that you seek when you walk into entrepreneurship or when you start that entrepreneurship venture. Sometimes it is finding that purpose and that passion as well. So just kind of keep that in mind too for all of our attendees today. So the next question is, how long did it take from forming your business from an idea to actually starting that business? Who'd like to take that question? Lisa?
Sorry about that. This one was funny for me to reflect on. It was a whirlwind for me. I had really never thought about being an entrepreneur or a business owner. I just knew I wanted to do something that I loved. And so when I stepped away from the corporate side of it, I knew that I loved doing events. And I could probably continue on doing that and volunteering my time for various organizations. But when I left, I left. Like, I mean, I wished them the best of luck. I came back home, I sat down and went, oh Lord, what did I just do? Where am I at? I had no clue. And it was a friend of mine who said, are you ready? And I said, ready for what? And he said, for you to do this. You can do this yourself. And that is when, so literally an opportunity fell into my lap. Country artists, Big and Rich, were looking to do a show in my community. And they're like, here you go. Here's your show. Start a business. I went, what? I said, okay, why not? So literally I was starting a business while doing a show at the same time. And literally we had to do that, find a way to get everything done within 2 weeks period, or I'd lose that opportunity. It was by far one of my most favorite things that I did. It was a huge success for my community, but it benefited the veterans, which is important to me. It provided a canine dog for one of our vets in our area. It supported our food bank. There was multi-levels to it. But when I got the question, I had to reflect back on that. I was like, 2 weeks, that was the thought process. And I'm sure there's people who ponder on it for a lot longer than that, but it was a wild 2 weeks.
2 weeks, that's the ultimate stress induced success. That's amazing. So Stephen, I see your hand up. Can you share that information with us as well?
Yes, thank you. For me, I came to the United States in 2003. Prior to that, I'd worked as a chemist, I'd studied as a petroleum engineer. When I came here, I moved to Houston. I was looking for a job. While I was back in Africa, I actually started a business of my own. And that's what I've always wanted to do. And the reason for that is because I was inspired by the experiences of my dad, who actually owned his own business at that time. Growing up, that's what I saw, that's what I knew, even though I still went to school to do all these things. Coming here, it was I would say something that was shocking to me because one, I'd asked myself, why would people buy? I didn't understand the behaviors that would influence people to buy things or to go elsewhere to do things. So it was kind of hard. So I'd always wanted to do a business, but it took me about 10 years, I think from 2003 to 2015, for me to be actually do that business. What did I do within those times? I took time to try to understand the new culture, to understand the dynamics of how things worked here. So it took a while, indeed, despite the fact that I'd actually, I knew I'd started my business back in Nigeria, and coming here, I just didn't know what to do. So I didn't know, it was just a new experience entirely. So as you will find out, I had to start learning. It was more about learning. It was more about trying to assimilate, try to understand the new home that I'd found. So all that, if there's anything I want to pass on with this commentary is that sometimes you may not know what to do, but it's important to be actually patient, to at least see what you are passionate about, what you would love doing. And for me, I finally found one in healthcare. So I had to do the training. I had to understand the business aspect of things. And it was until and then I had to save up also. And it was until I was able to do those things, get those elements in place before I actually jumped ship and said, you know what, I'm going to do this now, because that's the experience for me. So it took about 10 years all in all before I actually started.
Thank you, Stephen. So you can see how there can be just very contrasting views, you know, with entrepreneurship and business ownership. And so like Lisa was saying, 2 weeks, Stephen said, you know, 10 years. And it's important to note that there is no exact time frame. I think what works for you works for you. And if you take off overnight, you take off overnight. If it takes 10 to 15 years for proof of concept, that's totally fine too. So I think, Shirelle, did you share?
Yeah, I think looking back now, when I think I started and when I actually started were two totally different things. I actually started doing the work off of passion and not actually having a legitimate business. It wasn't until someone actually gave my organization a donation and they wanted my, EIN and my 501c3 information. I'm like, oh crap, I don't have any of that, right? So I had to do my research, and then that's how I stumbled upon the Women's Business Center and started working with Charles as far as building the structure. But yeah, it took me about a year or so to actually be a legitimate business, but I started the work way before that.
Okay. Thank you. And preparation is key, right? Like we have to go through those things sometimes. And sometimes I think business happens accidentally too. So right. Absolutely. All right. So next question. Why did you choose the industry that you're currently in? Tahira, I see you.
Yes, I say like it actually chose me in so many ways. As I mentioned in my introduction, my husband passed away during the height of the pandemic, and I'm originally from Harlem, New York, and we lived in Sacramento. So my family and close friends could not travel to be by my side because this is where the travel restrictions were in place, gathering restrictions were in place, and COVID-19 was still such an unknown factor. So I actually asked one of my friends if she could record his back east, my friend back east, if she could record his services virtually so that his family and friends and my family and friends can pay their respect. So through that process, a few months afterwards, I realized like this is actually a business idea. And this is how I got into the funerary industry, the virtual funerary industry. And also when it comes to the grief recovery workshop for Muslim women and women of faith. When I did my research and I realized like there were no grief recovery workshops for Muslim women and women of faith combined. So it was a no-brainer that they need these services, because I was fortunate enough to attend a grief recovery workshop locally in Sacramento virtually. And I knew like there are many other women like myself who have lost their husbands and they need support. So it was divinely guided. It was divinely inspired. And that's how I came into this industry that I never would have ever imagined, because my passion and my background is in the area of success coaching and life coaching and supporting women and fulfilling their dreams. But I moved with the flow and the inspiration and the need.
Thank you. Thank you. Kari, would you like to answer that as well? Uh-oh, you got to unmute. I think you're mute.
Yeah, absolutely. Profit margin. The catering business is basically recession proof if you have a good pathway to success. So our first idea in catering crashed and burned during the pandemic because we were no longer able to provide breakfasts and lunches to corporations. But at the same time, we were creating other product lines that we were delivering to these clients. And once we were shut out of delivering actual foods to corporations, the actual individual employees then activated our online ordering system for individual products that we started to home deliver to their houses. So it was a profit margin just for us. I couldn't imagine being an entrepreneur and trying to support my family because I got big kids that are athletes and they eat. So without, having something that allows us a particular amount of income per month.
Thank you for that. Definitely. And profit margins in business, pay very close attention to those too. So oftentimes people get into entrepreneurship or business ownership, and you equate revenue and profitability to be the same thing. They are not. So definitely, thank you for that point. Talitha.
It's funny, but it's calling. For me, it was calling. I've worked, like I said, several different businesses, different industries, but the need kept coming. People kept calling, and it got to the point where it continued to elevate and escalate. And they're like, can I just pay you to do this for me? Can I pay you to give me this information? Can you please come so I can pay you? And after a while, I finally decided, this may be something I should be doing. Instead of working these jobs, these endless jobs, and not having focus on career, I probably should try to put this into a structure and get paid for it, because I do this more than I do my own actual work that I'm getting paid for. So for me, it was calling.
Definitely. Thank you for that. See, that kind of that accidental entrepreneurship. I think that's how I started too. It's been about 17 years, and it was the same thing. You're going through the motions on a daily basis, and you think it's normal, right? I think the entrepreneurship mind is just different in general, but you're kind of going through the motions and you think everybody else can do or does what you do. And the truth is that that's not the truth, right? Your mindset is going to be very different. Absolutely. Question number 4. What has helped you to be successful in business? I'd really like to know that. Who'd like to answer that question? Lisa?
So that was another one of these questions that I had to reflect back on, because I don't feel I'm successful yet, right? I know I have a lot of learning. I can measure an event and the success, the profit loss, that margin that we just spoke about. And I think success means a lot to each one of us a little bit differently, right? I still have a lot to learn. And I realized that when I met Danielle and started participating, at California Capital. But my success, I believe, when I get there, is when all my pieces for my business are in place, where I've put the right people to execute the right needs and meet the requirements of my business, as well as continuing to fill my cup, which is important to me. I need to pay bills. I need to pay staff. I need to grow. But the success for me will always be if it continues to fill my heart and fill my cup, and I'm making that impact. I just want to leave the earth a little better, in a sense. And I want my business to do that as well, leave that legacy. And I think when I get there, that's when I can call it my success. So I have a lot of growing to do still. I'm not as well as some of the other panelists, but I'll get there. So I'm not done yet.
You will. Thank you for that. And success is relative, like you said, right? Everybody's definition of success is going to be slightly different. So definitely. Who else would like to share what has helped you to be successful in business?
If I could just say one thing, I totally agree with you, Lisa. Like, I don't feel I'm successful at all yet. Like, because we've run this company and it's gone really, really well, and we still don't know how that's happening. And we're like, no, not at all. That's why I joined, this, because we've almost made $1 million and I don't know what I'm doing. So no, not at all. Like, I think being successful, just for me, is when I can feel comfortable knowing that, okay, that's going to work, right? And like, I can replicate that over and over again and get, But no, right now we're literally every day, like we feel like we've jumped out of a plane and we're like, oh my God, what's happening? So no, not yet.
Okay. Stephen.
I completely agree with Lisa and Kari. Success is a continuum. You know, success is just by registering your business is success. By if you were able to quit your job, it's still some success. And success, it's something, in my opinion, that we gain. You know, it's like milestones. You know, now a child can walk, a child can run, now a child can fly, can jump. You know, it's the stages. I think it's important for us to celebrate every milestone. For me personally, I would agree with you. I'm not there yet. But if I looked at where I'm coming from and I see where I'm at right now, I want to be able to give some, pat myself on the back and say, you know what, I've done really well. You know, again, everyone's success, it's different. One of the goals that I had at some point was I was working a job, a 9 to 5. It's not a 9 to 5. I worked in the hospital, it's 12 hours. One of my goals was to be able to quit the job. That job paid me a whole lot of money, And even with all the money that I was being paid, I still wanted to quit because that wasn't my passion. So, you know, you're looking at something that's bread and butter, and you're looking at something that's not guaranteed. Business is never guaranteed. No. because there are a lot of variables that you cannot control. Yeah. I don't know if anybody knew the pandemic was going to happen a year or two ago, or 18 months ago. Nobody knew that. Now the challenge is that whoever could tell that you have a business, and now you can't even find people to work. You know, I mean, it's a kind of different problem that we're having now, and nobody could actually. I don't think anybody had any crystal ball to see all this. Yes. So, but my point is, I think we should celebrate what we've already achieved, what we've accomplished. It's important for it to be able to move us to the next level. And I would, and a lot of us would agree that business is 24/7. Mm-hmm. You know, it's 24/7. I quit the job. It's paying me a whole lot. Now I have to pick up calls in the middle of the night. I can't sleep. I have to worry about paying people every 2 weeks. It's a different kind of headache. But for you to be an entrepreneur is some kind of headache you have to embrace. You know, so what has made me actually successful is I continue to learn. I learn. I'm open to learning. The Women's Center, California Women's Business Women's Center has been helpful in that regards. When I'm not doing anything or I have my free time, I'm actually looking up things. I continue to ask myself, what's that thing I don't know? And I begin to discover every single time I learn or seek to learn, I begin to discover. And the more I discover, the more I know. And the money helps me with my business. So if there's any one thing that's helped me, it's the desire to keep learning.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Stephen. We have one more answer for this question. Brianna sent, she had a different take on this. I want to make sure that we share in this moment too.
Oh, I can share that. I had crossed out success in business from the questions, and I actually wrote survival because I think this past year has been, it's been about survival. I started my business in 2018, and I would say like the word of the year has been pivot. Yes. Wherever you can, whatever business lines you need to, those have all had to be changed and tweaked to compensate for COVID and operating during the pandemic.
Thank you for that. And if you have not had to pivot as a result of the pandemic, raise your hand. Oh, okay, just checking. All right, so next question. What do you wish you knew before opening your business? Lisa?
Well, in the event business, you always are looking for your backup plan, right? Anything that's going to go wrong, you need to be prepared for, because you want your attendees and those, experiencing the event to not even know that there's anything going on behind the scenes. The pandemic, who knew? Who could be prepared for a pandemic? Certainly not me. But in all fairness, no, I don't think there was a lot of us that was, but it's the HR and payroll part of a business. I consider myself, one of the things that Stephen was talking about was educating. I love to learn and I love to educate myself. But the HR and payroll difficulties, especially when it came to the new rules regarding the 1099.
Yes.
That was really hard for me. I get, we do events, maybe 4 or 5 times a year, and I have staff maybe 4 or 5 times a year. And so that was a big turning point for me. And when I did it for other people, I'd be like, hey, show up, I'll pay you, There's a lot more to that. That could be that could be very dangerous if you're not educated. So, for me, it was the HR and the payroll that I wish I had known a little bit more before jumping in.
Definitely. Thank you. And what Lisa was alluding to was that dynamo ruling where you have to be very, very careful on the determination between contractors and actually employees, and kind of how you go about paying them and benefits and different things like that. So that is definitely something to become as well versed in as possible. Next, Shirelle.
Sorry, I almost forgot I was on mute. 2 things really. One is just the taxes and the paperwork filing for your business, knowing the difference between LLC and sole prop, knowing how to file your taxes, where you can save money or cut corners and where you absolutely cannot. That'll save you a lot in the long run. So that I kind of struggled with. So I wish I would have educated myself a little bit more on that before I started my business, because for a year or so, I was kind of backpedaling and going over the stuff that the mistakes that I had made. Another thing is self-care. I work with a lot of people. I pour into a lot of people. And in the first 3 years of my business, I was pouring from an empty cup, right? And I think we all do it as entrepreneurs because you really don't have scheduled lunches. You don't have scheduled breaks. You don't take time off really, right? So you're constantly going, you're constantly pouring into other people, and you don't realize how much that impacts your business. You're not giving your 100%. And if you're not giving your 100%, then your business isn't flowing the way that it should be to its best, capability. So I would think those 2 is just structuring my business. And then 2 is just knowing about self-care and knowing how to take a time out when necessary.
Definitely. Thank you for that. Talitha, I see your hands up for this one. I'm going to just move to the next question just to try to get through as many as possible. For the audience, we would love to have you ask questions for the panelists as well. So if you wouldn't mind to pop them in either the chat box or the Q&A boxes, if there's a Q&A box, because we'd love to get to some audience questions as well. So the next question, what are your business goals for the next 1 to 3 years? Talitha, did you want to share that one?
Sorry, I was reading questions.
Oh, no worries.
To get started, definitely to get started on my own personal business. That is my first initial goal, to get the structure started, get it funded and get it up and running. I have the education behind me. I have the knowledge. I have all of the experience I need to actually walk in the door, which makes me not understand why it hasn't started. But my 3-year plan is to be able to pull in like-minded people like myself so that I'm not the sole business runner, because as Shirelle spoke earlier, doing it on your own and running on empty is not the way that I want to start my business in the first 1 to 3 years. So making sure that I have a structured plan and to add in people so that I can take the time that I need, because being a boss is not like being an employee.
Not at all. Not at all. Tahira.
What was the question again?
What are your business goals for the next 1 to 3 years?
There we have it. So within the next 1 to 3 years, my business goals is to have our virtual funeral services available to all 35 prisons in the state of California and on a federal level, and even have our services available in New York State and in Chicago. Also, I would like to have, the plan is to have grief recovery workshop chapters in all states. And we have leaders in all states. Also, we want to expand to help families spouses whoever lost their spouse, provide services for the parent, the surviving spouse, and their children, and prepare for grief services for step parents who are marrying into a family that lost their parent or spouse, and to hire staff. To the blessing of being able to help someone provide for their family. I look forward to bringing on more staff.
Okay, thank you for that. So the next, there's one from the audience, and I don't want to get away. I mean, I want to still focus on those questions, but because this one is top of mind, I believe it was you, Shirelle. They wanted to know, can you elaborate just a little bit more on how you figured out the tax process?
Yeah, I was actually typing that in right now. I literally had to do my research. There's a lot more information on irs.gov than you think. So what I did personally is I went on irs.gov, I did my research, I called and spoke to a call representative. That's what they're paid for. They're not the nicest people, but they are there to give you the information, right? So I talked to them, called, got the information that I needed, and then I followed up with a tax attorney with the information, with a little bit of knowledge, because unfortunately, sometimes you might get a tax attorney and you're spending hours and hours and hours with them, and that bill's kind of running up for information that was simply on irs.gov. So I did my research first, got all the information that I think I needed, and then just went to a tax attorney with questions.
Okay, thank you for that. That's very valuable advice. A lot of people don't realize IRS is a scary entity, right? But they actually are there and they will help you. So utilize those resources. So question 7, and we'll just take one for this question, because I'm sure we all have a multitude of stories, but how has the pandemic affected your business? Lisa, you want to take this?
Oh, I'll take this one. We went from 100 to 0 immediately. You know, we were the first to shut down, and we are still not completely open to do events. There are so many variables going on. My group of vendors and partners, and as we were sitting around, and I'm telling you, we didn't know what to do. We had equipment, we had, permits, and there's just some, it just trickles on down the line to the vendors, to concessions, to everything you can imagine. Everything stopped. And we decided that we had to just, we kept saying, our favorite phrase was, we're entrepreneuring our way through COVID. We just kind of had to start over and figure out what we could do to change things immediately. We had no staff, so we were doing our own security, we were doing our own electrical, we were doing our own planning, and we just had to use that famous word, pivot. We had to pivot. We created drive-in live. We followed, the governor said you could go to the drive-ins, so we created drive-in live events. The virtual world exploded. We had already been doing that, but then, our Best of Orange Bell award banquet became an online banquet with awards, and we, worked with the local restaurant. So we literally had to change. And there are some things that, even though COVID has drastically changed the way we do things temporarily or permanently, there has been some things that we will keep doing. That was a good result of COVID, if there was any. So,
okay. Thank you for that. So there's a few questions actually here, and I see, Kari, that you've shared some information as well. Was that pertaining to the things you wish you knew in business, or was that pertaining to how the pandemic has affected your business?
No, the question that I saw inside the chat was literally about how do you survive or how do you maintain your sanity or something if your support system isn't with you. You know, not everybody can run with you, but really quickly, I wanted to say how the COVID changed our business really quickly. I know Steven said you can't plan for things with a crystal ball, but you kind of can plan for things a little bit. And that was one of the reasons why I said before we went into catering and the food and beverage business, because it's one of those things that if you're going to take this risk and put yourself in it, and I know Lisa knows what I'm talking about, you got to do something that people are eventually going to get back to. Now, I know with her events management, you know, you may be having a hard time because of, you know, permits and regulations, and I'm pretty sure you're pivoting around that to get there. But we had sort of the same thing where, you know, COVID basically shut us down. But while I was in the face of my customers, I was doing peer-to-peer marketing to, you know, make sure that if something happened, I would still have that engagement so I could develop products for them to be able to use. So that's all.
Thank you for that. Thank you. That actually rolls into our next question. How do you keep your customers engaged? We know that because of the pandemic, we have all had to pivot quite a bit. So how do you stay top of mind in front of your customers? How do you keep them engaged with you? Tahira, did you want to take?
Yes, so several ways. First, we have a mailing list. So the families who attend virtually, we send them an e-thank you card at the end after like 48 hours after the services. In order for them to get the e-thank you card, they have to send their emails through the Zoom chat. So we send them emails on how to recover from grief, coping with grief. We let them know the services that's offered. Also, we have a social media platform. So social media is really like a free way of marketing your services. And although we don't get customers from social media, we're still top of mind, and it's about staying in their subconscious. Also, we do live events. We host virtual information sessions regarding the area of death preparation, how to cope with grief and loss. And additionally, we feature ourselves in articles and publications that target our market, and also opportunities such as this, where we just stay in front of people and we speak at conferences. Is about just staying in front of people by any means necessary, as long as it's in alignment with your purpose and your vision and mission.
Definitely. Thank you for that. Shirelle.
Yeah, all that she was touching on is correct. Just knowing your audience, really knowing your target audience. So if you know that your age group, right, is 25 to 35, you want to pivot more towards social media. If you have an older target audience, you want maybe, you know, target more towards email, things like that. So just know the people that you're serving and working with that.
Thank you for that. So oftentimes in business ownership, people don't realize how important it is to truly know your audience, to know your customer. You assume you go into business, that means everybody can be your customer and you can market or sell to anybody. And that, unfortunately, you can spend a lot of money that way, but you don't necessarily get business, because you truly have to identify who your target market is, where they are, how they communicate, how much they spend, will they spend with you? You know, are they more focused on relationships versus transactions and different things like that? Definitely. So thank you for sharing that information. What advice would you give to aspiring business owners? Brianna, is you.
Okay, so to answer this question, I looked very honestly at what I've learned here. And the biggest thing, I think, is to take honest stock of your weaknesses. Okay? Do not come in thinking, I'm going to be the best salesperson ever if you've never done sales in your life. And then hire for your weaknesses. Right? When you can finally hire, or if you want to hire, because some businesses are sole proprietorships and that's good too, but know what your weaknesses are and make sure that you protect yourself by compensating for that.
Absolutely. So you mean you don't have to take it all on as an entrepreneur by yourself? Is that
No,
what you guys do?
there's all those resources out there. You know, you can hire attorneys and accountants and you can talk to the free resources. But when you do hire employees to hire for, it seems obvious, but hire for the things you're not good at.
Makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. Kari, I think you want to share.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Brianna, because you cannot do everything. And if you try to do everything, you're going to crash and burn. You've got to look for help. I mean, you just have to. You got to let your business go. You got to let your vision go. You got to trust yourself as a leader. But my biggest thing for me, because I can get off track really easy, is making a business plan. Like literally road mapping out every single stage of things that I'm supposed to do in a format that just makes sense, that's easy. That was key for me to be able to get our Lemonade company from absolutely pulling it from a dead company into a company now where we're looking for funding and trying to buy a building and all these other things. So I would have never been able to do that if I hadn't written down what the vision was.
Thank you for that. And I'm grateful that you shared about planning, proper planning, and actually writing it down. If you are so inclined to share, who here has had a business idea and realized you could do 3 things well, but then there were 5 things that you could probably do on top of that, and you kept expanding? Raise your hand. I'll raise my hand, right? It happens. And so you don't have to have it all together, right? And often you're very well versed in a number of things as entrepreneurs and business owners, but actually planning and writing down exactly what you're going to do for this instance or for this organization or for this new venture is probably more important than anything else. So you have a clear and concise direction to go from there. So thank you for sharing that. Is there, Shirelle, did you want to share for that one as well?
Yeah, just to elaborate on that is just continuously look at that business plan, continuously go back and knowing your why. I do it every Sunday. Every Sunday I regroup, I write out my plan, and then I focus on my right and I read it out to myself because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I have 2 other businesses that I just started. So it's easy for me to kind of get set off track. So it's easy for me to know, okay, this is my why, this is what I'm doing this week, and this is why I'm doing it. And it's easy to go forward. And then also, of course, like Brianna was saying, delegating. You are only as strong as your team. For me, when I first started my business, it was my baby. And I'm so passionate about my craft that I wanted to kind of figure it all out myself, right? In the last 2 years, I've actually hired 1 employee and have been able to do so much more than I ever thought I was able to do because he's able to bounce off. You know, we're like yin and yang. Whatever I can't do, he can do. So with that, I'm able to serve more people, which is the reason why I'm doing it in the first place. So just delegate.
Great information. Great point. Definitely. Thank you for that. Is there anyone else who would like to offer some advice? Tahira?
Yes, I would. I concur with what everyone said. I know for myself, delegating. One of my weaknesses, although I'm a thoughtful writer and I'm a passionate writer, my grammar is not the best of the best. So I know I needed an editor. So I have an editing team and they handle all of the writing, which helps because I'm able to focus on the creative aspect of the business and looking for more business to bring into our services. So on top of that, I would say trust especially for the entrepreneur who is starting out new, like if you're new, like trust your intuition. Oftentimes we look for everyone else's opinions and guidance, and we lose our own voice and we lose the desire that came from within, especially if your business is started from your own personal need. So trust your intuition because you're receiving guidance from your higher consciousness that is leading you to something amazing. Also, I will write down one of my advice is to be flexible. So we have our plan, we know what we want to do, but then God has a better plan. And I'm gonna give an example. I was focused on serving funeral homes, funeral directors, and customer to customer. It was through a networking event where I was presenting my services that a chaplain was on, a retired chaplain was on that panel, and he contacted me to do a funeral for a gentleman who was incarcerated. Had I been focused on my plan, I would have totally missed a market that I didn't even think about. So being open and flexible to pivot where the opportunity is flowing. And I like to say, I go where the flow is. I'm not swayed by the wind. I'm just focused on the flow. And that's the currency of which I like to say. So be flexible.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Definitely very helpful. Definitely very helpful. So we are going to go into those top threes. I do see a question before we start there. Someone asked, how do you vet the business attorneys that you work with to see if they're, you know, good or not, if they're worth hiring and bringing onto your team? Does anybody want to share that? That's a fun one. Oh, Kari, do you?
Yes, it's, I don't want to say trial and error, because, you know, you might not have that opportunity to go through a couple of different attorneys and a couple of different sets of legal documents. But it really does depend on what legal advice you're actually looking for. Because you can get really, really good advice that, you know, generally if you're a startup business entrepreneur, you can go to like Rocket Lawyer or something like that, that really covers everything you need to know in a startup. And then if you get to some point where you're like, well, I don't really understand that, then you know that's the very specific niche or the very specific thing that you don't understand. And then you can like really do a really long string keyword search in Google and like really get granular. But we've gone through a couple of different attorneys, and a lot of them are great. They all generally have your best interests at heart. You just have to know exactly what you're asking them, because they will charge you for all of that time.
Absolutely. Talitha, what did you want to share about that?
That is a great question. Networking helps with that. Trusting the people that you are networking with. They have lawyers that they've utilized. Getting a business mentor and having someone that's already gone through the vetting process is honestly the best and the cheapest way to go about it. But if you don't have that network built yet, reach out to someone and ask them the questions first and do the research together. If it's something you guys can Google and find, it's worth that research than to spend the money wasting your time. Because I actually had someone reach out to me for my business consulting and ask me, hey, this is a contract. I want to send it to a lawyer, but they're going to charge me $400. What she was asking me to do was to review it. I was able to review it online, just Googling stuff. And I charged her $50 and she saved $400. So like Kari said, sometimes startup information is readily available. When you get a little bit further in business, you want to make sure you're networking with people that have utilized those other services to kind of save yourself. That's why partnership, networking, reaching out to other people that are doing what you're doing is very helpful.
Thank you. And Shirelle?
Yeah, just go off of Talitha, the same thing that I would say is just network. The more time you surround yourself with people in business, especially if they've been in business longer, they're going to have more referrals for you. Also utilize California Capital Women's Business Center. I ask Charles everything before I do anything in regards to reaching out to tax attorneys, to partnerships, anything. I always run it by him because that's what he's there for. And he's been so helpful. And I'm so grateful for him and Women's Business Center. But yeah, just, you know, use the resources you already have in front of you, like things like this, like Women's Business Center.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And shout out to Charles, amazing colleague. We've worked together for well over a decade. And absolutely. I think that one of the unique things that we are able to do and the opportunities is a lot of the resources we have throughout our professional experiences, so we can share those resources. And that's why working with the Women's Business Center is very, very helpful, simply because maybe you don't have to go through that vetting process. But if you are in a situation where you're looking to hire, whether it be employees, whether it be, you know, the additional professionals for your team, lawyers, accountants, whatever that looks like, one thing I will caution you is to hire people that you would want to work with, if that makes sense. So if you're paying somebody your hard-earned money and you're growing this company, the last thing you want to do is gift funds to people that you wouldn't work with on a daily basis. And it doesn't mean you have to be friends any way, shape, or form. However, you need to, at the very least, you need to like somebody. If you can like them, then you trust them. But if there's no likability and there's no trust there, chances are you might be going with the wrong business professional anyway. So does anybody else want to speak to that? No, not for this one. All right. So what we'll do, you're so welcome, Jill. Thank you for getting into getting those questions in. What I'd like to do now is we'll give everybody 60 seconds or to give us the 3 tips in business that you wanted to share, and then we'll open it up from the audience. We'll unmute and we'll allow that free-flowing conversation for the last few minutes of today's event. So what I'd like is we'll start at the top and then work our way down. Give 3 tips for success in business. So we'll start with Tahira.
Okay, so I got distracted because I'm recorded on my cell phone because I'm going to share this on social media later. So 3 tips I would say. I would say ask for help and be humble. We know we have a great idea and we see the world taking over the world. Be humble when one is giving you advice, even if you don't agree. Network and get mentors. Get people who knows what you don't know. And get people who are where you want to be. The last thing I would say, which helped me tremendously, is know your numbers. Don't be afraid of knowing your numbers, meaning how much, what are your profit margins? What are you charging for your services? And I will add on to this, especially for women in business, it's okay to ask for the top dollar rate. You're not being greedy. You're not being selfish. You're not being bossy when you ask for what your services are worth. And I'll end there for my 60 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful information. Thank you for that. Next, we have Shirelle.
Okay, I kind of feel like I've touched on this a little bit, but number 1, of course, would be network. There's power in numbers. The more you surround yourself with people that you want to be like, just like Kari said, and the more you surround yourself with like-minded people, the more success you'll have. The second one is don't be afraid of change. Business will change. What you thought that you were going to do or accomplish may change. Just like with COVID, we never knew that a pandemic was going to hit, but you have to know how to pivot, right? That's the key word. And thirdly is take baby steps. It's okay to set smaller goals instead of a big goal, because then you feel like you're not wearing yourself out. I know for me, instead of projecting, okay, I'm going to have this many clients in 12 months, I broke it down to 30 days. That way I can reflect during that time and say, okay, this is what I can change. Because the more you're trying to work toward one goal in a longer period of time, the longer it's going to take to make those adjustments that you need to make in business.
Thank you for that. Stephen.
Yeah, thank you. So the first thing I would say is you need to know why you really want to go into business. What's the purpose? There has to be a purpose for everything. And when I talk about purpose, I mean something really meaningful. If you know the purpose, then when adversity comes, there's a chance that you will stick with it. So it has to be defined by you. And if you have a purpose, set goals. So in my case, one of the goals is to leave my job. You understand? When you have a clear goal, then you now begin to work towards that goal. If I know I'm going to leave my job, and I don't have money, I need to be saving. I need to live small. I need to do all that stuff. Those are things, small steps to work towards the goal. Then the third thing I would say is have a plan. Having a plan does not necessarily mean that you have to, stick with it all through and through. A lot of you talked about flexibility. You have to be flexible despite the fact that you have a plan. Having a plan makes you to be focused. It makes you, it's kind of like a guide, it's a compass, but that doesn't mean you can go around the plan. So 3 things: know why you're going to do this, find a goal, set that goal, and make a plan and be flexible. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. All right, Talitha.
Simply, failure is not the end. That's the first one. 2, this is your legacy. Take your time. And network and research. No one can tell you about your dreams. Network and research, it's yours. Those are the 3 things I would leave you with.
Thank you. Those are very powerful as well. Thank you for sharing that. Kari.
My 3 things would be, number 1, have a plan. Because if you don't have a plan of, like, why are you doing this? Who's in the market with you? Just some basics, then, how do you know what you're building? That would be the first thing. The second thing is align yourself with successful people, because they just know how to get it done. And, this is new for you, and there's no reason to just do it by yourself. Like, I struggled with that for so long, just like, I can do this by myself. And it's like, why are you doing that? There's so many people that want to help you. You just got to reach out and align yourself with successful people. And then the third thing, which should be obvious, but being an entrepreneur, and once you get into this game, either you're going to love it or you're going to hate it. Either or. I can't tell you which one you're going to do. But if you hate it, you'll know immediately. But if you love it, it's going to suck you up. And the third thing is have some work-life balance. Don't forget your family. Don't forget your kids. Don't forget your friends. Just because you're building something doesn't mean that the world actually stops. You got to actually get out there and still be social and, do the stuff you're supposed to do. But those would be my 3 things.
Thank you. Definitely helpful information. Lisa is next.
Well, I have to concur with everything the panelists have said. In fact, I'm really glad it's being recorded so I can go back and reflect on it all myself. But you have to love it. Just like Kari said, you have to love it. And I think what you need to do is you got to surround yourself with those who fuel you, right? They fuel your flame. It's easy to get caught up in what doesn't work and people saying it's never going to make it or you're going to do this. You don't need that. You need people who are going to fuel that flame, make you glow even brighter than before, who are going to lift you up and push you forward when you need it. And for me, the hardest part was be open to help, get that help. When you don't know something, it's okay to say, I don't know that, and find that person to delegate that to, and find that person you trust. That was something that Danielle was able to pull out for me, because she'll tell you, I was resistant to it all. I was just a little bit, but with her, I've been able to accomplish so much more. So use the resources when you don't know, use the Women Business Center. I can't say enough about them and Danielle. I'm here because of that. And I have a 4th tip. And that is breathe. Take a moment, pat yourself on the back, celebrate the smallest of the accomplishments, because the path that you're creating, that path may become a trail for someone else someday. So take a moment and just kind of go, you know what? I did a good job. That was awesome. So, see?
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Everybody breathe. I think in entrepreneurship, sometimes we forget, right? You're so inundated with tasks and deadlines and just trying to keep things afloat that you don't enjoy the small wins, and sometimes even the large ones, but just the small wins along that journey. So, Brianna. I think we're
unmute. Okay. Okay. So I would say be realistic about your time horizon from startup to success. I think for most startups, you don't see success in the first year, first 2 years. So being realistic about your financial instability is totally okay. You do have to have a certain threshold or tolerance for risk, right, and financial instability. I also just want to reiterate that if something's not working, change it. It's okay. You're not married to a specific business strategy. And then Danielle, to your point that nobody wanted to comment on earlier about paying people who you want to be around, who are effective. I was thinking about a quote from the founder of Clayton Homes, which is probably the biggest mobile home dealer in the country. In his book, he said, the first time you think about firing someone, fire them. Mm-hmm. That was an extreme statement, but I have found that when someone's not working out, I have not regretted letting them go. So don't be afraid to let go people who are ineffective around you.
That's great information. That's great advice. Thank you for sharing that. And sometimes that leads into those harder conversations that people kind of try to dance around, right? But in the construction industry, I don't know that you have the opportunity to dance around those conversations as well. I think to add to that, know as an entrepreneur or business owner, not only are you hiring, staff or partners or consultants that you're working with, you are, in my mind and kind of how I operate my consulting company, I actually hire the clients that I'm going to work with as well, right? So when you look at it that way, it helps for you to keep ownership of what it is you have. The other thing is you understand that it isn't important to chase money or business opportunities because there are no shortage of those. You just have to find the right ones for you. So whenever you're looking to take on business or bring on customers, especially larger clients and different things like that, consider, are these people that I want to work with? And if it weren't for that funding mechanism, would I work with them, into the future? That's always one of those conversations that people try to shy away from. But again, you're investing your time, energy, and resources into that relationship just like they are. So just make sure that you have the time to really think that through and get to know those people, to know if you even want to work with them in the first place. I'm also going to open it up for my colleague to share a few tips as well. Being in this industry, being literally boots on the ground with business owners on a daily basis, I'm sure there's 3 tips that you have to share with us. So, Charles.
Yes, thank you, Danielle. Everyone, I just want to first and foremost thank everyone for being present and being on the call. I was taking notes as well with some of the tips that you all were sharing. Some of the things that's exciting for me is that this is not our first time hearing these things, right? A lot of these things that we're hearing in terms of maximizing your opportunity cost, taking a moment to breathe and get through it and celebrate the successes. Some of the things I want to expand upon is we talked about a SWOT analysis essentially in terms of understanding your weaknesses. I think what is really important for me, depending on the client that I have, is that I always like to share, hey, there's that external SWOT analysis, but guess what? Let's look at the internal SWOT analysis as well. And so when we can identify what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and those opportunities and threats, then we can kind of build that platform and say, okay, I know I'm not that good at this, so let me delegate this responsibility to this person. And again, you will find over time by you being able to do those types of things, by result or by default, you maximize your opportunity cost. And so one of the things that I was thinking of as I was listening to the panelists that is really important is that sometimes you have to be okay with saying no, right? And it's something that's hard to do, but it's something that you need to learn to evolve to be able to do. And a lot of times that's friends and family. I saw a comment in I saw some comments floating through sometimes we can't hire friends and family. It's okay, you know, and that's why we communicate. When we communicate, it's just not us verbally saying something. It's more or less, we need to listen as well and know what our intuition is telling us that, hey, you know what? I don't think it's a good idea for me to hire this, you know, my uncle or my aunt or whomever it may be, given, you know, I know how they are, right? And so it's really important to, again, take a look at that internal as well as the external SWOT analysis, identify your roadmap, which is through, you know, outlining of a business plan, have something. And I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So you have to create some type of roadmap in order to have the type of success that you want. And we all know as entrepreneurs, success is just not, it doesn't just fall in your lap, right? It's something that you have to really kind of create through the momentum that you have by networking and putting yourself around winners and other entrepreneurs and other individuals who want to see you succeed. And so I think it's really important to, again, you know, be flexible and know your numbers and all these different dynamics. And so I'm sharing the things that I share with clients as well as what I've heard today. And I think that it's really impactful when we can kind of create, you know, kind of like this fishbowl of good things to do when you're being an entrepreneur. Because you're going to have to lean on so many different strategies and so many different positive traits as you're growing your business. And so I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm just excited because, you know, there's a certain energy that, you know, that I can feel, you know, from all the panelists. And one of the hardest things that for an entrepreneur, I think, is that we all kind of were looking around on this screen here when it says kind of what is success? So when did you know you made it? You don't never really have that feeling because you're always striving for more, right? And a true entrepreneurs fear complacency, right? And so if you have a financial goal, when you hit that goal, you have another goal. So you're truly not happy. So money is not necessarily a motivating factor for success. And so when you, several of the panelists have shared that, it's really important to find that thing within you to say, this is why I do it. This is my why. Right? That why is going to get you through, hey, we got to pivot. That why is going to get you through, man, I've been working 24 hours. That why is going to get you through, you know what? I can't make this event. You know, that why is going to get you through, I can't go out to the beach. That why is going to get you through all those different hurdles that take place and take flight as an entrepreneur. And so, again, I appreciate you all so much just for sharing, because this is really, you know, personal, you know, to a lot of us. And so a lot of you I've had the privilege and opportunity of talking to on a one-on-one basis. And some of you I haven't spoken to before, but I know a little bit about. And I'm just so excited for, you know, what's to come. And thank you again, Danielle, for being a phenomenal moderator here. And along with the other staff that we have within California Capital, just, you know, being able to put on the event. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Charles, for that information. And thank you all so much for literally gifting us with your time and your ideas, you know, and your experience. I think in entrepreneurship or business ownership or in any organization in general, the experience and the time that you invest into what you're doing, into what others are doing, it always comes back to you exponentially. So thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. Thank you for being willing to share, you know, those struggles and those obstacles that you've, you know, come into play with, and sharing with us your success as well. We really enjoy hearing your whys behind starting your businesses. I think the other thing is that there is, again, such vast industry here on this panel. Thank you literally for showing others that there is no one size fits all for entrepreneurship. Everybody isn't a consultant, right? Everybody isn't in tech. Everybody isn't, you know, designing this brand new, I don't know, car or widget or whatever that is. We are so multi-talented, and there is such a diverse pool of intelligence here. And I think you guys brought proof to power for that for people who are attending today. So thank you for that. Would anybody like to leave us with a final thought today? I'll take the first hand. Go ahead, Charles.
I just want to say one thing that was mentioned earlier. We as number one people, let alone businesses and entrepreneurs, one of the most important things is to always be a continuous learner, right? No one on this call or on the Zoom call knows everything, right? And so when you take little bits and pieces from a consortium of different individuals and different businesses, that's how you create your own definition of success. And so I challenge everyone to continue to learn. You know, it doesn't have to be, for example, from me or from, you know, from Danielle or from Kari or from Shirelle or Stephen or Lisa. You know, I mean, learn from everyone, you know, because that's how you're going to create the best version of yourself. And so, you know, everyone has a different gift. Everyone has a different talent. And so when you surround yourself with like-minded individuals, take little things from them. And that's how, again, if you do those things, success will be imminent for you. So thank you again very much.
Definitely. Thank you for that. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you all, and we will see you tomorrow for pitch competition. Thursday is a small business roundtable and market, or small business marketplace, excuse me. And then Friday awards day. So looking forward to seeing you all throughout the week. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good one, everyone.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye. Be safe and be well, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.